But here you have the Johnny Appleseed of terrorism wandering the country with his little sack of anthrax.
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 Anthrax. Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Anthrax bacterium.
Anthrax bacterium.
Anthrax investigation. Anthrax investigation.
Anthrax exposure.
Anthrax exposure.
Anthrax test. Anthrax test with anthrax scares.
Anthrax scare.
Anthrax spores. Anthrax spores.
Anthrax strains. Anthrax strains.
Anthrax hoax.
Anthrax hoaxes.
Anthrax attack.
Anthrax attacks.
Cases of anthrax.
Anthrax case.
Anthrax cases and traces.
Traces of anthrax.
Traces of anthrax.
Traces of anthrax. Skin anthrax.
Skin anthrax.
Cutaneous anthrax.
Cutaneous case of anthrax.
Inhaled anthrax.
Inhaled anthrax.
Inhalation anthrax.
Inhalation anthrax.
Inhalation anthrax.
Inhalation anthrax.
Anthrax in the mail.
Anthrax through the mail.
Anthrax tainted letters. Anthrax tainted letters.
Anthrax laced letters.
Anthrax laced lettered.
Anthrax letter.
Anthrax letters.
Anthrax letters.
Anthrax letters.
Presence of anthrax. No presence of anthrax.
Positive for anthrax.
Negative for anthrax.
Negative for anthrax.
Positive for anthrax.
Also has anthrax.
But not anthrax.
I don't have anthrax.
He does not have anthrax.
No anthrax.
Crop dusted Omaha with anthrax. Mass spreading of anthrax.
Mutant anthrax.
Deadly anthrax.
Kill any anthrax.
Anthrax fighting drug antibiotics.
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 Antibiotics. Anthrax vaccine.
Smallpox vaccine.
That's right, he said smallpox. Smallpox vaccine. That's right, he said smallpox.
Back to anthrax. Cure for anthrax.
Died from anthrax.
Cure for anthrax.
Died from anthrax.
Cure for anthrax.
Died from anthrax.
Cure for anthrax.
Died from anthrax.
Cure for anthrax.
Died from anthrax.
For the next few minutes, I'm going to give you the facts on Ebola. It'll take just 3 minutes.
Ebola.
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 Ebola. Ebola. Ebola. Ebola. Ebola. Ebola.
Ebola.
Ebola.
Ebola.
Ebola.
Ebola.
Ebola.
Ebola.
Ebola.
Ebola.
Ebola.
Ebola.
As you know, this Ebola strain has been much more virulent.
Ebola strain.
Ebola strains.
Ebola strains.
The Ebola strain.
Ebola strain.
Ebola strain.
What causes Ebola?
Growing Ebola fear spreads around the country.
There are fears the outbreak will continue to spread.
Americans panicked over a possible Ebola outbreak.
Fear and panic over a possible Ebola outbreak. Ebola outbreak. Growing fears about Ebola.
Tested for Ebola.
Tested for Ebola.
Tested for Ebola.
Tested for Ebola.
Is there any cure for Ebola?
ZMapp.
So the drug that many people have read about in the media is something called ZMapp.
ZMapp. ZMapp.
ZMapp.
This used to be an orphan drug. What companies now actually see the potential for profit in developing an Ebola therapy?
ZMapp.
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 They are covering the man in a completely airtight containment unit.
Smallpox scare.
That's right, he said smallpox.
6 vials of deadly smallpox.
That's right, he said smallpox.
You're probably dead.
Because somebody might weaponize Ebola.
If I were a bioterrorist and I had a chance to weaponize 5, 6, or 7, I would not pick Ebola.
A country that actually weaponized Ebola.
Is there any cure for Ebola?
Monday, the first of 39 healthy volunteers began getting the experimental Ebola vaccine.
The first ever human trials of an Ebola vaccine.
An Ebola vaccine.
Ebola vaccine.
Forget the conspiracy. Listen to our government agencies. These guys are telling the truth. You know, there's no conspiracy here, folks. Just get your damn vaccine.
Cure for Ebola.
Die from Ebola.
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 This video is brought to you by the subscribers of BoilingFrogsPost.com. For more information on this and other topics, please go to BoilingFrogsPost.com. For more information and commentary from James Corbett, please go to CorbettReport.com.